Hi everyone, welcome back to Vlogmas Day 3. Today I had planned to do a little bit of a day in my life vlog, but everything went to shit, so I'm attempting to do most anticipated reads for 2025. I have decided to break up into 3 different sections. One with sequels, because these are some series that I want to continue reading on. One for authors that I've read from before, but these are their new books. And one for new to me authors, books that I haven't heard of before. Some of these I have heard from work, so a hint for you there, but let's get started. These are in no particular order, but starting off with Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. Like I said, this is probably one of my favorite romance series of all time. Done and dusted, completely changed my life, and I am going to continue reading everything that she puts out, including this one. Next is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. I mentioned Heartless Hunter on my last video yesterday, so you can imagine how much I enjoyed the first one, and this is the conclusion of a duology. So this author really has my heart in her hands with this one. Next, The Ragpicker King by Cassandra Clare. I am probably going to vlog my experience with this one. I intend on rereading the first one and then reading this one right after, because I enjoyed so much the first book that I really want to document my experience with this second one. Next is probably the most anticipated book on everyone's list next year, which is Onyx the Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I haven't read the second book because most of my friends were really struggling with the cliffhanger, so I decided to read the second and third book back to back. Maybe I'll even vlog that too. Next is Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. Phantasma was probably one of my favorite reads this year, but I'm still not sure if I'm going to pick this one up. I'll probably wait for some reviews because I don't necessarily want to follow Genevieve. I don't know if I'm interested in that, so we'll see what people say before I pick this one up. Next is A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle Jensen. I really liked the first one. It's a Norse mythology inspired romantasy with forbidden romance between 2 main characters, and I'm really excited for this conclusion, especially because of all of the twists and turns that the end of the first book had. Next is Gloves Off by Stephanie Archer. I hope I will be all caught up with the series once this one is released, but I have read the first in the series I think last month or the month before that, and I really liked it. I'm confident on this one. Next is A Steeping of Blood by Hafsa Faisal. I remember literally screaming at my walls when I finished the first book in this duology, so I am definitely going to be ready to pick this one up as soon as it's released. And one that I think the title may have changed is Dearly Departed by Olivia Dade. This one follows Baker Carl from At First Sight, which I read back in, I think, October or September. And the last one is actually Left of Forever by Tara Dewitt. This cover is just stunning. I think this is probably one of my favorite covers ever. Like I mentioned in my review of the first book in the series, this couple was hinted a couple of times. This is a second chance romance. There were like 2 or 3 scenes where we see a little bit more of them, and I cried when I read them. I am really excited about this one. I think it's probably going to be my favorite read of next year. And these are all of the sequels that I intend on reading next year. For now, next are books from writers that I've read from before, but this is their new thing. There are only 2 books that I am definitely going to be reading. The first one is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I read everything that this man puts out, everything, even his grocery list. He's my favorite author of all time since I was a teenager. That's not gonna change no matter what you say, no matter who I read. I'm really excited to see his endeavor in nonfiction, especially after The Anthropocene Reviewed was probably one of my favorite reads of all time. Then Catabasis, which I think is how you say this, by R.F. Kuang. Obviously, I'm reading this one. Babel was my favorite read last year. This is academic rivals in Cambridge going to the underworld to save the soul of their advisor. Hello, of course I'm reading this one. Next are some wild cards, I think. The first is Sunrise of the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I didn't read the last book that she put out in the Hunger Games trilogy, which is sort of like a prequel, but I am excited to see what happens with Haymitch in this story. I am probably going to wait for a couple of reviews before picking this one up. Next is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am not a big fan of her. I think I've read 2 or 3 books by her so far, and none of them were favorites. But this premise sounds a little bit fun and something that I haven't read about in the romance space. Next is Skybriar by Talia Hibbert. I had no luck with her Brown Sisters series, but this is an Austen-inspired rom-com, and I think this might be the reason why I picked this one up. Next is The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. I really liked Vampires of El Norte, so this one is another paranormal romance / horror historical fiction from her, so I am probably going to pick this one up. Next is Hot Wax by ML Rio. I haven't read the novella. I read a bunch of negative reviews about it saying that it was incomplete, so I decided to wait it out and stick with reading her full-length novels. But this one is about a 90s rock band. I am not sure if I am interested in reading about that, but we'll see. And finally, Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I read from this author before. She has great commentary on climate change, and this is a remote island literary thriller, so I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for that. And finally, these are some of the books that are complete from new to me writers, starting off strong with The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This is a figure skating sports romance. Like, hello? Of course I'm going to read this. Look at this cover. Like, this cover is incredible. It gives me Taylor Jenkins Reid vibes, so I'm really excited about this one. Next is Everything I Promised You by Katie Upperman. This is a hard-hitting YA about a girl moving on after her soulmate dies. She has lived her entire life that she was destined to be with her mother's best friend's son, and after he passes away, she now has to figure out what is in store for her. Next is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. This is a fae romantasy with a little bit of a high society competition. I am really excited about this one. I love the cover as well. Then The Notorious Virtues by Alwyn Hamilton. This is her new series. It's another romantasy with a competition subplot, but this one is a family competition for the family throne. Next is The Romance Rivalry by Susan Lee. This is a book about 2 book reviewers that are rivals and they fall in love using romance tropes. Hello? Sign me the fuck up. Next is Nobody in Particular by Sophie Gonzalez. I have not read from this author before, even though I know she's very popular, but this is a princess, all-girls boarding school sapphic romance, so this is really calling to me. Next is probably one of my most anticipated reads from an author I haven't heard of before, which is A Forbidden Alchemy by Stacey McEwen. This is a slow burn romantasy duology of a fated pair with a violent class war in the background. Like, it is everything that I need in a romantasy right now, so I'm really excited about this one. Then I have 2 books, Bitten by Jordan Gray and Blood Moon by Brittany S. Lewis. Like, let's bring back paranormal romance. I think Bride by Ali Hazelwood has already proven that this is a genre that needs to have a comeback. The first one reminds me of Vampire Academy, but with werewolves, and the second one is an intensely romantic ride, so I'm really excited about that one. And the cover is beautiful. Another book that I'm excited about is Wrangled and Entangled by Kosoko Jackson, which is a gay cowboy romance, which is exactly what I need in my life. The next book is more of a literary fiction book called Ordinary Saints. This is an exploration of family, grief, and queer identity and the legacy of the Catholic Church in Ireland. Please, that sounds amazing. The next one is The Maiden and Her Monster by Maddie Martinez. This is a sapphic horror gothic fantasy from the publisher Tor. Everything lines up. And these are some of my most anticipated reads for 2025. Let me know what yours are in the comments below. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.